Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
Your strength, your ability to grow a business is directly related to the strengths that you already have in creating relationships, in collaborating with other people, in helping other people feel safe and seen and understood. That is all selling really is. And then you're just taking that relationship that you've already created to the next level of like commitment with a purchase. You're just helping them get something that they already want by offering to help. That is it. And so I think so many people get really twisted in their minds about like, but if I'm selling, then I'm not helping people. I'm pushing them to do something. And it's like, no. Selling, the heart of selling comes from service. It comes from wanting to help people and wanting to change the world and helping people get some things that they already desire. You're not making them do anything. They already want what they want. You're just showing them how you can help them get that.
You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping overwhelmed clients make space for what matters. Join me each episode as we explore ways to live a more proactive, productive life with topics and guests that speak to simplifying self-awareness, systems, and so much more. I understand overwhelm personally as a fellow multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today we're covering a topic I think is especially important for my fellow multi-passionate creatives and entrepreneurs: sales. Without sales, you have a hobby, not a business, right? But they can be tricky. This is not our first chat here about sales. We dug into the softer side of it with Renee Rebar in episode 43, and we've had many conversations about related topics like ethical marketing and copy and authenticity. And what they all have in common is encouragement for us to show up genuinely in service and give our potential clients or customers a choice, or more importantly, agency when they interact with us. Sales is considered by many to be a dirty word, but my guest today is going to help you think quite differently about it. Melanie Childers is the master coach for feminist entrepreneurs who are committed to changing the world for women, helping them scale their businesses to multiple 6 and 7 figures. She works to help them disrupt internalized patriarchy and hustle culture so they can build successful businesses that support themselves and their communities without burning out. You can see why we connected, right? We definitely bonded on the hustle culture side of it, but I love what she's about in terms of the relationship building that is the key to sales. In our conversation today, Melanie helps us reframe every aspect of sales, including the reason for the sales call, objections, and what questions to ask before and during our conversations with potential clients. It all comes down to being of service. Melanie describes a sales call as a place to explore where no and yes are equally welcomed, and I agree wholeheartedly. If you'd like to experience that kind of call, I welcome you to head to my website Connect page and book a time for a discovery call. That's positivelyproductive.com/connect. Like the name indicates, our conversation will focus on curiosity and connection. No hard selling or obligation. It's an opportunity to discover what could be for you. And I'm honored for that opportunity. Today, Melanie speaks of consensual and collaborative conversation, and that makes my heart sing. But when you hear what she says your goal in a sales call actually is, you might be just as surprised as I am. There's so much in this conversation today I cannot wait for you to hear. So let's join Melanie now to learn the key to sleaze-free selling. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast, Melanie Childers. I am really excited to dig into this topic today, and I had the pleasure of being on your podcast. Love that you are now here with me. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is such a fun exchange of interviews and conversations. I love it.
Especially with our topic for today, that it makes me giggle, but also it's important that we avoid it at all cost, right? The sleaze-free selling. But before we get into that, I'd love it if you tell us a bit about who you are and who you help and what makes you light up.
Oh, absolutely. I am Melanie Childers. I am a feminist business coach, and I help other coaches, creatives, and online entrepreneurs grow and scale their businesses to the numbers of revenue that delights them, whether it's multi six figures, seven figures, eight figures, wherever they want to go. And we do that without being gross, without hustling, without doing any of the bro toxic tactics that people just don't even engage with anymore. So it's like, yeah, all of that.
Yes. And I think that's where you and I both light up is in the anti-hustle category, right?
Absolutely.
And that's how we bonded for sure. So to that point that you're saying, so there's this, I think, stigma with sales. And there's also, I mean, there's been experiences that we've had. So what is it that you've seen that is the sleazy side and what we're trying to work against here?
Oh my gosh. When I was starting my business, so I've had two separate businesses. First, I had a yarn dyeing business because I was a knitter for many years. I still knit. And that was so fun to me. And it was such a passion. And it was so easy because I was surrounded in a community of people who were knitting, like in an online community with like millions of people. And so it was just like, hey, I have this yarn for sale, and people would buy it, right? It was so easy. It ended up just like paying for itself. And then I got tired of it and got diagnosed with cancer. And that was like 10 years ago. And so when I started my coaching business, for some reason, I thought it was going to be different. It's really not. You tell people that you have a thing that can help them and that they might like, and they buy it. But I went through a lot of online programs to quote unquote learn how to sell. And frankly, so many of those programs have been led and created by toxic old white dudes or older white dudes. And it's not to say that sales itself is toxic. Sales is just what all of us do all day, every day, whether we are talking about what we want for dinner or our favorite music and telling other people about a book that we just read. You're selling people. Talking about our political opinions, you're selling people. But when it is done in a way that is pushy and manipulative and arm twisting on the pain points and telling people that their lives are going to be terrible if you don't buy right now today, that is abusive and manipulative and just gross. People don't like it. And there's a reason people don't want to be sold to and don't like to be sold to. And it's these tactics that make that happen. Whether you are cold DMing somebody that you've never met to tell them how you can help them get something they already have because you haven't done any research on them. I get those all the time. Or you are on the phone with someone and sort of browbeating and arm twisting. And what ends up happening is if they say yes, they're people pleasing you and they resent you going into your services. And why would you want a business full of resentful clients? I never want that. And once I realized, oh, I've accidentally learned all of these tactics, I was like, how do I put a feminist bent on this? How do I put a consensual, collaborative turn on selling so that people feel empowered to make a decision, so that people feel excited to buy and to work with you and to get what they came for? And what I realized was that you have to park your ego at the door. You have to park your expectations and your defenses and your fears at the door and truly show up and serve and help people make a decision for their future and love them, whether they say yes or no. That was kind of long-winded, but
No. I mean, there's so much goodness in there. We're going to pack a little bit more of that, but I want to just shift right back around to the point of what you're describing with, who's showing us how to sell, right? Because those of us who are stepping into this, we're specifically talking about creatives, right? And you are one, you were one, yarn dyeing, right? And of course, we're talking right here on the podcast to multi-passionate creatives every day.
Hello. Also one and ADHD. So I'm excited and
Yes,
interested in everything.
all of the things, and they're fabulous. And I think with that also comes this desire to make a difference and to change the world and to care for others and to not be a jerk. It's like, do you find that challenge to reconcile those feelings of wanting that goodness with this idea of sales? And I think that comes from that misunderstanding or the way it has been taught. Is that what you see?
Yeah. And I don't anymore, but initially I did.
Right.
I had so much resistance to selling or even telling people about my services because we've been taught the vast majority of the teaching out there is very alpha, it's very aggressive, it's very pushy,
Mhm.
and it is not the way that someone who is socialized as a woman goes about selling. And so it's directly contradicting the way that we naturally work in creating relationships. And so, our ability to sell, if you are socialized as a woman or if you identify as being creative, being empathic, being sensitive,
Mhm.
your strength is actually in selling, just not that way. Your strength, your ability to grow a business is directly related to the strengths that you already have in creating relationships, in collaborating with other people, in helping other people feel safe and seen and understood. That is all selling really is. And then you're just taking that relationship that you've already created to the next level of commitment with a purchase. You're just helping them get something that they already want by offering to help. That is it. And so I think so many people get really twisted in their minds about but if I'm selling, then I'm not helping people. I'm pushing them to do something. And it's like, no, no, no. Selling, the heart of selling comes from service. It comes from wanting to help people and wanting to change the world and helping people get some things that they already desire. You're not making them do anything. They already want what they want. You're just showing them how you can help them get that.
I'm delighting in this concept right here. And one of my favorite things to do is what I call an auditory highlight. Imagine, if you will, now because we're speaking to each other, you have words on a page, you take a highlighter to them. What you're saying here about the heart of selling is in service. How beautiful is that? That resonates. And I remember the first time I came to understand that there's something different out there than the pushy, the used car salesman kind of thing, right? Okay. When there was something else. And one of the phrases, and I still take it with me because I love it, is the heart centered sales, right?
Yeah.
This idea that it comes from the heart first and foremost. So when it comes from the heart, that means you want what's best for your potential client, your potential customer. And so that also might mean that it's not what you have, but it also could mean that it is what you have. So staying open to that, right? Not locking into what the result is, but rather coming to an understanding.
Yeah. And I think so much of selling out in the world, so many people think it's not successful if I don't get the sale.
Mm,
And when that is your perspective, it's all about you. And service based selling is all about the customer. It is all about uncovering what they need, uncovering whether your offers and services fit that need and will help them get what they truly want. And the way that you show up to that conversation is what creates them coming back, whether they buy now or later, because they're going to see this person does not have their ego wrapped up in whether or not I buy. They are truly here to help me make an empowered decision that serves what I want. So I came out of college as an exotic dancer. So I was selling myself and lap dances, but I also sold cars, new cars, not used cars. But one of the things that I noticed in doing that was that the reason that I would make a lot of sales in that area, I wasn't like the best or the greatest or any of that, but I was pretty successful the time that I was doing it, was that I created a relationship with people. And my goal, my only goal was not to sell a car. It was to help them find the car that they wanted. And I knew that might not be what's on this lot. It might be somewhere else, but at least they will leave with that clarity. And that's all we're doing.
I mean, that's such a gift too, but it really does come back to you. And I'm so glad that you brought up the idea of successful selling being beyond the actual sale. Because when you start to think about what you are selling the experience, the relationship. There's so much to it, I guess is what I mean to say, where they feel like there's trust. They feel like you are someone that they want to stick with, even if they're not directly working with you in, whatever way you offer at the moment.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many instances where I have people who become avid podcast fans and followers that they advocate for me.
100%.
Or maybe they're not just not needing what I offer, but that it isn't the right fit. I can remember, and in so many instances when I have a discovery call with someone, it's like not, hey, let's find the right service for you, but rather, do we connect? Do we match? Is this a fit?
Yes.
And are you ready for this too? And I've had instances, and I remember one in particular was probably the first time that this had happened to me, where she came to me so frustrated because she wasn't feeling productive. And of course, not feeling productive, wants something different, tried everything else that makes sense to come to me and talk to me, right? But I realized that what she needed more than anything was support via therapy, that there were many things that she needed to work on healing, and that it wasn't a productivity problem. And that's what I recommended.
That's always true. And for those of us listening, the way that you show up to the sales conversation is what creates people referring other people raving about you, people coming back to you because they don't feel like you have an ego stake in whether it's a yes or no. They truly feel like this person cares about me. They care about the choices that I make. They care about the direction that I want my life to go. They want to serve me at the highest level, whether it's a yes or a no, whether I work with you or not. And when you are able to show up in the sales conversation, unattached to the outcome, parking your ego and your fear at the door, and truly being present and listening and validating their concerns and offering your services. And if your services are not a fit, send them a referral, send them something that will help them along the way until they're ready for you. They will come back when you are the right fit for them. I've had people that I've worked with since, who've been in my sphere since like 2016, who just signed up to work with me this year. And it's like, yeah, of course. I knew you'd be back. I was just waiting for you. I'm glad you're ready now.
I think that can definitely happen where it's like, I'll be here when you're ready. I've literally said that to people. I will be here when you are ready, because sometimes it is a matter of, I think I'd like to do this, but I don't know if it's the right fit right now. I want to make sure that we are not conflating that advice that's out there that's like, a no is just a not right now. And it might also be a no, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. But I think getting the clarity on that is all about asking the right questions.
That segues us beautifully into, let's take a step by step of what we're doing. So that first step, of course, I think you said it beautifully, park the ego and try to stay unattached. And I say try because we are in business, right? We're looking for clients and customers. We are looking to grow and to support our families and ourselves and to make a difference. So we want the sales. I mean, and I think that's such an important part of this conversation, right? It's okay to want to make the sales, right? So how do we reconcile that with parking the ego and how we look at it. So yeah, take us through step by step, like what we can do today when we're like, all right, I can think about this differently. This is not the, your mom's or your dad's kind of selling that you thought about. This is a new kind of heart-centered selling. What do we need to do step by step?
Yeah. So my first recommendation is to take your mind to the place where you are completely in love with the person in front of you and the future that they want to have. And you are showing up from the belief that you are here to help no matter what they decide, and you love them no matter what they decide. And that's what I mean by like park your ego. Because when you make a no about you, then you get defensive in the conversation and you try to convince and you try to pull them along. And that breaks trust in the moment in the relationship. And so your only job, your actual job on a sales call is not to get the sale. It's to show up in service and love that person no matter what and help them make the most effective decision for getting what they want for the future. And so when you are showing up to lots of sales conversations, when you know, number one, that objections are normal. That is what the human brain does when it has to get uncomfortable or it wants to avoid the pain of like paying money for something, doing work for something. And we may want the thing at the end of the rainbow, but the pain along the way
Not so much.
can be a thing that we want to avoid. And so like people want to avoid the discomfort of paying money or having to do hard work or whatever it is that might be involved in your services that helps them get what they want.
Mhm.
And so just knowing objections are normal, human brains are going to look at their bank account and go, I don't have money for that. I can't do it. That's normal. Your job and knowing that objections are normal helps you know that a no is not about you and objections are not about you. And it does not mean that they don't want what they've come to you for. They still want what they've come to you for. And their brain is going to throw up some obstacles in the way. And so part of your job is to help them decide for that future that they came to you for. Of course, they're going to say, but, that's normal. And so your job is to be present, to validate that fear and to help them reconnect to what they came to you for and keep asking good questions like, do you want to do this work? Do you want this result? And even if you don't work with me today, how will you go get that result? Like that's service. It's not about the sale.
Right. It puts their brains in discovery and curiosity mode, and it starts to innovate and say, oh, how would I do this? Okay, well, I could do it this way. And then it allows them to compare. I love that our job in a sales call is not to make the sale. I want to plaster that everywhere because it really takes the pressure off, doesn't it? It's not only that when you show up to serve that you are creating this beautiful relationship that has so much potential, but to me it immediately feels like a way to calm those nerves that normally come with selling.
Yeah, 100%. Because when you can park that anxiety, you can truly be present and show up and serve somebody. And of course, yes, you have a business. Businesses have to have money to live. Oxygen, money is the oxygen of business, right? Like it has to have money to grow and to breathe. And you can want the sale on the sales call, but your actual job is to show up, help that person make a decision that serves them at the highest level. And if you're working like one-on-one with people or intimately with people in small groups, you want to make sure that that's somebody you actually want to work with too. So it really is like a bit of an interview. That's the way I see it. When people apply to my VIP one-on-one coaching, when they apply to my mastermind, we have a conversation on Zoom because I don't work with just anybody. And that doesn't mean that everybody that shows up to those that I don't absolutely love and adore them. But if they're not a good fit, I'm not going to say yes just because I need the money.
Right.
If that might be what's happening in my business. If it's not an F yes for me and an F yes for them, it's a no with love. And so there's no pressure here. There's no like, you don't need to white knuckle. You don't need to convince. You don't need to push. It is a mutually collaborative and in service conversation for both of you.
And there can be a really long-term relationship that happens, case in point, and especially I think when it comes to like high touch, high trust. And that's oftentimes with with creatives and with, empaths, right, that we're talking about here, that's the case. I have seen too where it hasn't been the right time. Of course, when we talk about this, we're thinking of very specific clients, right, in our minds. Beautiful situation where I supported someone in various ways through the podcast, through, discovery call, through, a quick coaching call, things like that over time. I don't think that she would have been ready to work with me originally, but over time, through that different kind of support, she grew into someone who was ready to have signature coaching with me.
Yeah. I've had a lot of clients like that.
Right?
I love you and I'm here for your future. Come back to me in a year. Here's what you should do between now and then. And they do, y'all. They do.
Yeah. And just to your point, it's like they want what you have to give them, but they also do need to be ready for it. So I think that's so important that we are asking the questions on our behalf as well.
100%.
And when you do that, there's so much goodness in that because it is part of a relationship where it's like, listen, I need you to know what I want and what I expect, what my boundaries are. And then when you do sell, you are selling to someone. My clients, I can tell the difference because my clients have just gotten better and better and better. And sometimes I'm like, wow, they're so incredible. How did I get here? Well, I got here through showing up to serve. Now, speaking of those really good questions, I love questions. And I would love to know maybe some examples of questions that we could be asking ourselves in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the questions that I love to ask myself before I even get on a call with someone. So, let's say they've filled out your intake form and you're reading all about them. One of the things that I love to think about is what do I love about this human and their dream? Because listen, part of the sales conversation is collaborating with the dream that they have and standing for that dream, even when they're scared.
Hmm.
And just showing them the path of here's what happens if you choose to follow this dream. And here's what happens when you don't. What do you want to decide? What do you want to do? And do you want my help?
That's beautiful. The idea of holding space for someone in any instance is such a gift, but to hold space for someone, not just for a time that's a challenge, but for their dream.
Yeah. I think one of the most powerful things that you can do on a sales call is fall in love with the human in front of you and the dream that they have, the thing that they want. And that way you do show up in service. You love them no matter what happens. You want the best for them no matter what happens. That is serving. That is serving the human in front of you. That is the most feminist selling I can freaking think of. It's like, I love you. I want you to win.
Right. I want you to succeed.
I
So
want you to win so bad. And if I can help you, great. And if it's not me, okay. Let me send you to some people that I know might be a better fit.
and that's still you helping them. Oh.
That is still you helping them. So you help them no matter what. And that doesn't mean give your stuff away for free.
Right. Okay. And I think that's important. Yes, exactly. I mean, well, referrals or ideas or leaving them with, a challenge or things that they need to work on or whatever it is. I mean,
That
that's
is still
all.
service.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think coming back to questions to ask, one of the most important questions you can ask in a sales conversation is around consent. So I teach a process that you investigate what they're experiencing now and where they want to go. And then you tell them about how your services help them get from point A to point B. And then you make your offer. But before you make your offer, there's a question. So after you've investigated and after you've shown them, this is how I'm going to help you get across the bridge from point A to point B. This is how I'm going to help you bridge the gap and overcome all of these obstacles so that you can get to this after place that you want to be after we work together. This is what you need to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then you ask, do you want to hear more about how we could do that together, or about how I could help you do that? So you're asking for consent to share your offer. And so many people think, well, but what if they don't want to hear it? What if they say no? I'm so scared they're going to say no. You still serve them, right? You told them what they need to do to get from point A to point B. Whether they hire you or not is up to them. That does not mean that you don't help them talk through whatever comes up for them after you've shared your offer. Leaving them in, I can't afford it, or I need to do X, Y, or Z before I work with you, which may be true, but leaving them there because you're afraid to talk about money or you're afraid to investigate further is actually a disservice to people. So many people are like, oh, I don't want to push. And what I'm saying is it's not pushing when they have an objection that comes up. Those are normal. But you just ask, would you like to investigate that further? Would you like to talk through what it could look like? What if you don't need to do X, Y, or Z first? Could that be possible? So we're just asking questions. We're just getting to the bottom of, is this the actual objection? Or are they saying this because they're just afraid to say no? And so something else that I love to say is like, your no is safe with me. And it's okay for you to say no to me. You can't hurt my feelings. I've done this a million times before. You can't offend me. I'm not going to not be your friend if this is a no for you. I would rather you be real honest with me that this is a no for you. And let's be specific about what doesn't work for you. And if it's me, it's okay. You can't hurt me. But I would rather you say no to me than be a false yes and come into this program resenting me from the beginning. Let's not create that relationship. Let's not start this relationship on people pleasing and lying to each other. So if it's a no for you, please tell me.
Yeah, I love that.
Or if you want to figure out if this is the right time, or if you could figure out how to afford it, let's talk about it. I'm here to help you get what you want.
What's so beautiful about a conversation like this is many times there's that default objection. And I'll use an example because you see it everywhere and I do it myself and I catch myself doing it. You walk into a store, pick it. It doesn't matter, grocery store, shoe store, any store. And if there's someone there who says, can I help you find something? Almost before you have a chance to think about it, you say no, right?
I'm just looking.
I'm just looking. Like, I have to stop myself and I have to be, as a matter of fact, you can help me. This is what I'm in search of. Point the way. Maybe I'll get there faster. Like I've had to teach myself to do that because our instincts are to say no. And it's protective, right? Our brains are always trying to protect us. It is to create the space. It's the, wait a minute, let me think about it. I don't know. Sometimes it's social anxiety. Who knows? So many reasons. So when you say, it's okay if you say no. Oh my gosh, talk about consent. I mean, it's so good because immediately everybody's anxiety is like, oh, okay, well then I can say no, no. And then when you keep asking the questions, to say, all right, so it's a no. Do you want to hear more or do you want to talk about something? Do you want to play something out? They can do it without feeling like, oh, you're still talking to me like I have to say yes. No, I've said no, but I'm curious, or I'd like to talk it through. You create a safe space to have that conversation. And sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't realize it could be like this. Because you used two words, another auditory highlight. What if? Oh my goodness, those words are so good. Because a lot of times we come in with very natural objections because of the stories. And it doesn't even have to be anything major, like you've been through massive trauma and you're saying no. It's like, no, we just do things very naturally. Our brains love to say no and close us off, or, risk management. That's a natural instinct of ours, right? So giving us that safe space to explore a little can sometimes change I thought I was going in with a no, but I'm actually saying yes, or I'm saying yes to this option as opposed to that. I actually have multiple coaching packages. I keep it pretty simple. There aren't a lot, but I have multiple ones because I know sometimes there's a frequency preference and it feels better for someone because sometimes meeting too often can be anxiety inducing. And that is so not what I'm about. So when they realize that they have options, it changes how they can find their way.
Yeah. It's like everybody's shoulders drop.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's start exploring. Let's start figuring it out. Maybe I said no because I'm not totally sure how we would get from point A to point B. Can you just tell me that again? Help me understand that. Or maybe it's I said no because it was expensive. And then I remember that I love $2,500 handbags every quarter. So like if I just didn't buy any more new handbags, like for, 6 months, this is no problem. Right. It's like often our instinctual response is no, I don't want to be sold to, which is, I think, really, really normal. Our brain is trying to protect us. And we're so used to being pushed that we're expecting the push.
Yeah.
And what we aren't doing in a sales conversation is pushing. We're investigating. We're asking for consent. Do you even want to investigate this? If not, it's okay. I love you. Thank you for coming. It was so nice to meet you today. I wish you all the best. And that's it. Send them away with love.
Yeah, beautiful. And I promise you, they will stay connected to you when you're treated that well. I mean, any relationship where you're treated that well, right? I think you want to stay connected and you want to stay in that place of positivity.
Absolutely.
Well, that feels like an incredible place for us to wrap up. Is there anything else that you'd love for us to walk away with that we didn't cover that you want to make sure we stay with?
The biggest thing that I see people doing when they are scared of selling is actually selfish. They don't make enough offers. They don't tell enough people about what they do. They become afraid on the sales call that someone's going to say no. And so they don't offer their services, or they only offer the most affordable one instead of the more expensive one because they have a belief, well, but this person can't afford it. And what I want to say with love to your whole audience is get your brain out of their wallet. You have no idea. My dad died almost a millionaire, but you would never know it if he walked into the auto parts store. You would never know. So you never know. And not selling because you're scared is actually a disservice to the people in your community. There are people out there. They need what you have. They want what you have. And they're probably suffering in some way. When you basically have the keys to the universe as a creative, as an entrepreneur, you have the keys to the universe to solve a specific problem. Not selling is not serving.
That is a beautiful takeaway.
Go sell, y'all.
Love it. Now, before you and I dig into our fun little rapid wrap up, please tell us where we can find you online.
Oh, absolutely. I am at melaниechilders.com, and I have a free Facebook group where I drop all kinds of fun truth bombs and regular trainings called the Bad Bitch Entrepreneur Community. And I run the Bad Bitch Entrepreneur podcast. So come on over and say hello. Be nice to meet you.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to have those links in the show notes, including our episode together, right? And if you are ready, we will get into the rapid wrap up. So it's simply filling in the blanks for me, please. A song that lifts my spirits, makes me dance is?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
I know.
Well, let me just answer you this way. Anything Megan Thee Stallion.
Okay. You know what? I will pick the first song that comes to me that shows up and add it to the Positively Living podcast Spotify dance playlist so we can groove together. Now, the next question, a quote or a mantra that inspires me or that I love to share.
You can only earn what you believe you are worthy of. Don't ask me where that came from. I have no idea, but I fully believe it.
Right on. Okay. How about a resource? It could be a book, an app, anything that has made my life better.
Ooh. Well, as an entrepreneur with ADHD, the Pomodoro Focus, I think it's called palmfocus.io, is life-changing for getting lots of things done. This year, I am writing a book, launching 2 courses, rewriting and relaunching my website. So doing a lot of creative things. This is helping me actually sit down and focus on one thing at a time.
Love that. The Pomodoro technique can be so helpful.
So helpful.
Okay. And now, as a bonus question, last but certainly not least, what are you grateful for today, Melanie?
Honestly, I'm grateful for napping during the day because so many entrepreneur teachings out there are hustle and grind, get up before everybody else, stay later than everybody else. And I do not operate that way. If I need a nap during the day, I go take a nap. And I took a nap right before this podcast. And that is going to give me so much more fuel for the next hour and for tomorrow as well. So get your naps in, y'all.
I'm going to back that up 1,000%. I said naps, not math. I didn't say I was good at the math thing. Yeah, for sure. I had a nap earlier today too. So 10 out of 10 would recommend.
100%. Always, every day.
Okay. And speaking of gratitude, I am so grateful for you and that we've connected. You've joined us today to share your wisdom. And I love how you shine your light in this world and that you shared it with us.
Same, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute thrill.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.